Good morning again. And today I'm presenting, my topic is called Fair Play, Respite for Parents Caring for Children Requiring Complex Home Care. And actually this work comes from my doctoral study, and it's one chapter because it's one theme that emerged from that data. First, I want to show you, this is a map of Canada, and as you can see, it's a huge country. And I'm from New Brunswick, which is the little red area in the far east of the country. And this is the University of New Brunswick. It's the oldest university in Canada, and it's nestled on the side of a hill with its many red brick buildings. Anyway, it's really quite a delightful campus. Now, on with the study. You might wonder why I got interested in this topic, and I had been a pediatric nurse, and I noticed more and more that we were keeping children alive that at one time weren't able to because of technological advances, pharmaceutical advances, and also from nursing care. And so all of a sudden we were having a large population of children who were being cared for at home by their parents who required many complex tasks to be done for them. So I thought, I wonder what's going on with these families. I wondered, what is it like to care for a child who requires complex care at home, and how do these parents get a break? And this study I conducted as part of my doctoral work, and it was done in England. So it was an ethnographic study, and it involved 47 participants. There were 19 mothers, 4 fathers, 7 grandparents, and these grandparents were the sole caretakers of the children. There were also 13 nurses and 4 social workers. Data collection involved in-depth interviews, and it was a conversational type interview. I did use a question guide, but overall it was just a conversation that was audio recorded and transcribed verbatim. Then I coded using a coding program called Nudis 6, and I arrived at concepts and themes. I also did participant observation, and I did this in the homes of the families as well as in different respite centers. And finally, I did a document review, and that's where I looked at current government documents related to parents or carers, and also policies in respite facilities, because I wanted to see what was governing this respite care. So there were 4 emergent themes that came from my study. One was called Parents Caring, the next, Caring and the Impact on Personal Identity, the Nature of Respite, and I've presented all of those other themes previously, but today's theme is Fair Play, which was the 4th emergent theme. So let's stop for a second and think about, what does fair actually mean? And according to the Oxford Dictionary, fair is just, unbiased, in accordance with the rules. So let's think about that as we look at fair play. And the Oxford Dictionary says fair play is reasonable treatments or behavior. But to parents, fair play meant a balance of give and take. You help me with this, and I'll help you with that, okay? A back and forth. Now, from the study and from all of the data from the parents, I came to the realization that fair play was a desired outcome in the struggle to provide respite care in an environment in which the rules are not only unspoken, but vary between the players, and where breaking the rules provided more gains than being cooperative. So that was fair play that evolved from the study. So within fair play, and as the study rolled along, there were key categories that emerged. And I'm going to go over these now. There are 6 of them. The first one was care obligations. And parents told me that they cared out of feelings of love for their children, but also out of feelings of obligation. They were parents, and that's just what you do. You raise your kids. But they struggled to determine those care obligations that were reasonable and those that were unrealistic. So as this care became more and more complex, they were raising the question, is this right that I have to do this in my home and that I have to do this on a daily basis? Then feelings of entitlement. Parents spoke of a personal evolution that began with questioning what realistic expectations might be and progressed to the realization that caring for their child was a job. They saw this as a full-time job. Respite information needs. Information on respite was not forthcoming. Once their children started school, parents learned about respite from each other. So it was quite a hushed topic until their children started school and they found out from other parents what they were receiving in terms of respite care. And I'll give you some quotations for each of these as we move along. Ongoing support needs was another category. And parents stated that they did not receive ongoing support from health services or social services. Their perception was that support was only available during periods of crisis. So they really had to be in a difficult situation in order to get that support. The next category was negotiating the system. And the parents felt that service providers didn't believe them. Parents said they bargained that if assistance was not forthcoming, their child would have to be placed in care. So they always used that as a bargaining chip, that if you don't give me some sort of a break or some respite, I will have to place my child in care. And in fact, some parents did place their children in care. The last category was equity, and parents identified inequities between supports available to former carers and those available to themselves, and inequities between families in terms of available respite. Some families had a lot of respite where others didn't have much at all. So let's look at some quotations from parents in terms of care obligations, and that's back where I talked about how they were starting to question whether this was reasonable care or not. And this father says, I think there's a degree of reasonableness of how far these parental responsibilities are expected to extend. And I'm going to just pause for a second and read you. This is about one family. This is their situation. And this family is Martha and Joe, and they have a son, Justin, who's 9 years old. And they have a son, Alex, who is 3 years old. And Alex is a healthy preschooler, but he needs help with feeding, hygiene, stimulation, and supervision. Justin, who's the 9-year-old, has a diagnosis of tuberous sclerosis, uncontrolled epilepsy, polycystic kidneys, severe autistic tendencies, and asthma. So the mother described the care she gets. So she said, starting in the morning, I get him downstairs and I dress him. He's double incontinent still, so I change his nappy, make his breakfast, feed him, he can't feed himself, and then he goes off to school. So everything you do for a baby, I do for Justin. We've got it down to about 3 or 4 times a day, with most of those being in the night. I mean, sure, he has lots of absences, meaning absent seizures, as well, but you don't really count those. I'm just talking about the grand mal seizures. The sleep deprivation, it's just 9 years of getting up to him constantly in the night. I mean, even if he's not fitting, I'll have given him his Epilin and then he'll go on a high, or he'll be building up to a fit. So he won't be just lying in his bed sleeping. He's coming downstairs, he's bouncing around, he's getting out. So this mother had a tremendous amount of care to provide to Justin, but most of that care was during the night, and she was very much sleep deprived. But I also want you to think she also had a healthy 3-year-old. So during the daytime, she was occupied with care of her 3-year-old. During the night, the care of her 9-year-old. So it was very daunting, the care that she had to provide. Feelings of entitlement. This mother said, I think in a way, since we didn't have anyone to fight our cause, we fought our own, and we are quite determined that if we are going to look after her at home, that we do get the care we want. I'm a carer, and that's my job, so I should be entitled to a holiday. So parents felt that they were entitled to a break. In terms of information needs, things are there, but they won't tell you. They'll give it to you if you find out, but they won't advertise. We learn from the parents underground, so there seemed to be secrecy around the availability of respite care. Another mother said, I think half the battle is knowing who to approach. The signposting isn't clear. Ongoing support needs. I think your needs only emerge over time, so what you perceive to be required when Hannah is young wasn't what was required when she was 3 or 6 or 9 and so on. So you need to change. So some consistency of contact and support would be beneficial. Negotiating the system. This parent said, you begin to wonder what on earth you're doing wrong, and right or wrong, you get the impression that other people don't believe you. This father said, I think when we were talking to social services and the health authority about extending the property, I made it very clear to them that it wasn't looking after Hannah that was the problem. It was fighting the system that was the problem. And equity. Our house is unsuitable, so we can't have help at home because health and social workers aren't insured to carry her about. But it's okay that we carry her. So these parents met with great adversity, and the support they required was not always forthcoming. They had to fight for that. They had to learn about it from other parents in that so-called parent underground. So I think it's time that we pause and think about what situations we're putting parents in. We're giving them lots of care to be delivered, but what supports do we have for them in getting a break? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. MacDonald, to share this very interesting study. I'm also a pediatric teacher, and then I find this is an important issue. Sometimes we ignore their need. So thank you so much. Do you have any question? No?
I have handouts of my paper if anyone would like one. I think there was a question.
Does the state in Canada support this level of supportive care?
Yes, it's just as difficult there as it was in the UK to get any kind of support. Yeah, it's very similar.